Hey everybody, this is Elijah with Righteous River Fishing in Oregon, and today I went to the fishing store and bought some cool fishing items. This video, I'm just gonna give you a quick overview of what I bought, how I'm gonna use it, and how I rig it up. So let's just see what I got right here. A quick overview is some paddle tail swim baits, some bells, soft feeds. You know, people might not know how to rig those up. I got some scent, a rooster tail, some small jigs, and some lead weight. So that's kind of an overview of what I've got. So really what I'm gonna do is just explain to you how I'm gonna use these things and show you how I rig them up real quick, short video, and hopefully it's gonna help you have some pointers, have some tips on how to use this type of equipment and go out there and catch fish. So stay tuned, let's go check out this gear. Okay, let's get right into this. First, we're gonna categorize these because there's lots of different types of fishing we're gonna do with this kit here. So first I wanna categorize these and put your swim baits in one section. These are gonna be for jetty fishing, catching lingcod, bass, all sorts of fish off the jetty, cabezon. That's one section here. I'm gonna show you how to rig those up. Then here we have some trophy trout stuff here. Now this is actually some scent. I've never tried it, but it says trophy trout, so it's gotta be money. And then I've got this killer rooster tail. Look at the colors on this. Man, I've been catching fish with rooster tails, but this one just is really looking like money. So that's where your trout setup here. Then I've got steelhead. It's winter steelhead time. So I've got these B&R creamsicle 18mm soft feeds. These are actually kind of rare to find, but I'm gonna rig those up for fishing soft feeds. The bells, you're like, what do you use bells for? These are for plunking, and that is a very common tactic in the Pacific Northwest. So we've got these bells that I'm gonna be using. And then and I have these weights. These bullet weights are real smooth and nice. A lot of weights you buy are kind of rough. These are for making homemade spinners. I'm gonna paint those and I'm gonna turn those into beautiful spinners. That's it. And then the last thing is something I'm super excited about. I've got a new ultralight setup for float fishing, and this 1/4 ounce bobber by B&R Tackle, and then these really nice small jigs from Oregon Tackle are gonna make a beautiful setup on my brand new rod and reel for ultralight fishing. But not only that, I'm gonna pair these up with, check this out, these trout worms from Thurston Bait Company. Look at that match. Those are gonna look stellar on those jigs. I just won these on a veterans 25 Days of Christmas giveaway from the Fallen Outdoors on Facebook. If you're a veteran, go check them out. Awesome company, and I won some great baits. So that's the setup here. We've got them categorized. I'm gonna show you how to rig up each one of these to go out and catch fish on your own. Let's go do this. Okay, the first setup is how you rig up paddle tails for the jetty or any rock fishing that you're doing. Now you guys will probably know I have a lot of jetty videos out there. That's one of my specialties. I catch a lot of fish on the jetty, and 4-inch paddle tails are the way to go. I have never tried these Rapalas, but we're gonna give them a try, and I'm gonna show you how to rig them up. This is super simple. You can catch fish. Like, first of all, look at this. That looks like a real fish. And when you retrieve that tail, man, that's the action. They think it's a fish. A lingcod will come out and smash it. And all I do is put this on 1-ounce jigs. So look at this. I got 1-ounce jigs and I got 1.5-ounce jigs. That might pair good with this or a bigger swim bait, but my go-to is a 1-ounce jig. And this is what I do. First of all, you kind of line it up and you see, where is it supposed to come out of there? So it's basically gonna come out at about that spot, right? Now, you just run it straight in the center. Just try to keep it straight as possible. Find about the location that you pinpointed. That's it. Check this out. That is your paddle tail swim bait on a 1-ounce jig. I'm gonna be casting that out on 40-pound braid, casting it out, jigging it back, and that's gonna catch fish all day long. Now, I could give a quick demo. This is a little bit bigger of a jig, so if your swim bait is a little bit, ooh, something just shot and hit me in the eye. If your swim bait's a little bit bigger, I would probably still run a 1-ounce jig on this, but you can run a bigger one, okay? So let's go ahead and do the same thing. We're gonna measure out where we think it's gonna come out, about there. Same thing, right in the center. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just always, you always want it to look the best you can make it. If that bait looks good, those fish are gonna want it. So, Look, not perfect, but it's pretty close. Look at that, 1.5 ounce. That's actually a perfect match. I think this might be, is this a 5-inch swim bait? It doesn't even say, but it's a little, it's a 4.5 inch, 4.5. So 4.5 paired with a 1.5 ounce jig. And the 4-inch is my go-to on a 1 ounce jig. So this is gonna be for the Jetty. Let's get on to the next item. Okay, the next equipment I have is fishing for trophy trout. Now I haven't aired the video yet, but as you might have seen on my short clip, I just nailed 5 trophy trout. I've been really killing these trophy trout. They're really big, 21.5 inches, 24 inches. And when I saw this trophy trout scent that goes on your spinners and bait, I said, I gotta give that a try. So here's what we're gonna do. This is very simple. This is kind of like deodorant, all right? It's just like this scent that you rub on your different types of baits. And what I have here is a rooster tail that I'm gonna catch a fish on first cast tomorrow, guaranteed. Okay, this rooster tail is absolute money. Get a nice shot of this thing. Sparkled green, looks real good. But what they say is all you gotta do with this scent is rub it like on the blade. And yeah, that's gonna dull it out a little bit, but that's gonna put a very nice scent in the water. When that thing's working through the water, that's gonna be leaving a scent. And then the instructions say you wait about 10 casts and then reapply it. So basically that's supposed to give you the edge and give you a little bit of scent on there. And then what I've got here is my PC Fun Carbon R1 rod, PC Fun Carbon X2 reel. These things are fire. And all you do, 6-pound line down to a swivel, hook your spinner onto the swivel, and that is it. Or you can tie it directly on with no swivel to be more stealth. That's your setup. This is what I'm gonna use tomorrow. But if you stick around for tomorrow, I'm gonna show you a video of me catching a fish on this rooster tail, guaranteed. I'll put a clip right here. You wanna see me catch a fish? I'm gonna show you right now. Fish on. Oh, first cast. First cast on the rooster tail. Whoa, airborne. Got him. So that's the setup for tomorrow. Let's get to the next gear. Okay, the next thing I have is these bells. Now you might think, what am I gonna use bells for? A couple things. I mean, if you're trout fishing with worms, you can hook that onto the end of your rod and it will hold there, and then when the trout bites, you'll be able to hear it. But this is my plunking rod. Plunking is when you have a heavy weight on your line. It's thrown down into a deep hole, and then behind it you have a leader with a spinning glow that floats and some hooks and some bait, okay? I like to do plunking for salmon and steelhead, but I have some bells and they never stay on the rod. But check out this. I noticed these are really tight, and so I'm thinking because they grab so good that I'll have it on there. If a fish bites, boom, I'm gonna know it bites. Anyways, that's what we use bells for, plunking. All right, the next thing is these bullet weights. Now, these are pretty cheap. A lot of bass fishermen use these for like, I think it's like a Carolina rig. I don't know. You could put it on your line and cast it out. I like these because they're smooth. You can turn these into spinners. So here's a couple of spinners that I actually made out of these. You take that lead and you paint it basically, right? I use some Protect paint. You heat it up and you put it on there and bake it on. But here's what you can do. You can transform that into a spinner real easy. You just have to have a wire, the right balls that fit in there, a blade and a hook, boom. So anyways, I thought these were nice. They were pretty cheap, only like $1.50 for this whole bag. And then I'm gonna save these, and when I'm getting in the mood to build some spinners, that's what I'm gonna use those for. Let's get to our next product. Winter steelhead fishing. It's already December. It is steelhead season. I haven't been out for steelhead yet, but soft beads are a super effective way to fish. And actually, lately, the trend has been to go big on your beads. You know, traditionally, trout fishermen use very small beads, and those work. But big beads work too, especially in Oregon when you're hunting big trout or big steelhead, big salmon, big beads work. And I've actually seen a guy catch a lot of fish on this particular color, so I had to get me some. I'm gonna show you how to rig these up in fast order, okay? So basically, you put these on a bobber rod, and you have to have a bobber and a weight to get it down there, and then you have a leader with your soft bead. Now I already have a couple leaders pre-tied here, and I'm gonna just show you how to rig this up real quick. Also, when you're bead fishing, it's nice to have a nice long leader. This one's not too long. This one's about 3.5 feet, but some people go, 5 feet plus. But here's how it works. To get one of these beads rigged up, you have to have a leader. This is a hook with an egg loop knot. That's not necessary, but you just need a leader and some nice good line. This is probably a 25-pound line. Here's your stops. This is how you attach it. So I'm gonna take the end of my leader, right? Let me get this here. And there's a little hole there. Put it through. I'm gonna slide this stop down on my leader. Boom. Okay. Pull it down. You wanna get it close to your hook, like they say about 3 fingers away from it. So if you look at this, that's about 3 fingers distance from the hook, okay? And it's set in place. Now, that's the stop. Now you just put one of these beads, they have a little hole through it, and you run that down, slide it down the leader, and you just basically smash it onto that stop. Keep it going. You can also put some scent on these too if you want to. I do that. But that's the setup. That's how you rig the soft bead. Real simple. Now, it might be a little more complex setting up your bobber rod to actually drift this, but you basically want your weight down there and you want this just drifting in the water. You want the size of the hook to match the size of the bead, just so it's drifting, they think it's salmon roe, and then bam, you get your fish. So that's how you rig up a bead for winter steelhead fishing. Hey folks, we're down to the last 2 items on this, the stuff I got from the fishing store. And I'm most excited about this because I've been getting into ultralight fishing, okay? And I just bought this new rod, and this is actually a 7.5-foot light action Okuma SST rod. The purpose of this rod is actually to do some float fishing, some light float fishing, right? Have a rod with a lot of play in it, have a light reel, and to be able to fight those fish and have a great time. Now, this is not the reel I'm going to put on there, but for demonstration's sake, I'm putting on this Daiwa BG. Looks like it's a 2500. I actually ordered a, what did I order? A Daiwa Revros 2000 that'll be here tomorrow. I'm going to put 8-pound J-braid on it. That's really light, right? I'm probably running like 20-pound or 15-pound braid on this one right now, but this is for the demo. So what I've got, let's look at that equipment again. This is supposed to be my light setup for trout. So I've got a sliding bobber setup. It's pretty light, it's at 1/4 ounce. And I'm gonna be running that. And then I'm gonna be running a really light, probably 4-pound leader down to this jig and these Thurston Bait Company trout worms. And this is gonna be a fire setup. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna demo. How do you set up this sliding bobber? We're gonna put it on here. Then we're gonna rig it up from start to bottom. We're gonna get this set up on there, and I guarantee you I'm gonna get out there, you know, on the river in some current and smash trout right away with this. Maybe even a steelhead, who knows? So let's get this rigged up and see what's going on. Okay, let's rig up the sliding bobber. Right now we have a main line, nothing on there. We're starting from scratch. The nice thing about this little B&R kit, it looks like everything's included, which includes bobber stops, beads, the float, everything. So that's good. I'm gonna dump it out and see what we got here. But if you have a bobber kit, just make sure you have several packs of bead stops and beads in your bobber kit, because you never know when you're gonna break off, you're gonna need these small things. So the first thing we wanna do with a sliding setup, I'm gonna lay it out here and then we're gonna put it on the line. You want your bobber stop on the very top and then a small bead before you go to your float. So we're gonna open one of these up. And a bobber stop, there's rubber bobber stops and there's rope bobber stops. You can use either one. This kit obviously has rope, so that's what we're using. And actually, I like the contrast. If I was using a yellow or line this color, I wouldn't use this bobber stop. I like to have a contrasting color. So let's go ahead and put your main line through. Okay, now you take your bobber stop and slide it off. That's the garbage. Then you tighten this knot up. You actually want it pretty tight, okay? There we go. And just slide up the line a little bit. Now, here's a tip. You don't want that much of your tag ends out, right? But you don't want it all gone, because you might have to retighten this later. So I normally cut them about halfway, just so they're kind of clean. It's not too much excess. And a lot of times I even actually burn the end of those real quick so they don't fray in the water. Since I have a lighter handy, I'm actually just gonna burn the ends. Sometimes in the water, just a little bit. Sometimes in the water, they'll start to fray. And that's kind of a pain. If you burn the ends, they're not gonna fray on you. Okay, we got a bobber stop. Then you need a small bead. There we go. Okay. That bead was very difficult to get on. I think the big bead actually goes there as well, because that little bead can kind of get stuck in the top of the bobber. The hole is like fairly large, so I'm gonna put that big bead on the top as well. Okay, if you're watching, the beads that come in this kit, sorry BNR, they suck. The hole on this, you would have to have like 2-pound mono to get through that. I can't get my braid through it. These red beads suck. They're really poor quality. So I'm actually just gonna take my kit. This is like a bead kit I have. This is a bunch of the float accessories. I'm gonna use my own bead here that I know I can actually get on the line. Has a little bit larger of a hole. There we go. There we go. So now we have 2 beads. Now we're gonna go in the top of the bobber. We're really struggling to get this line through the bobber. This might sound, oh gosh, there we go. Holy cow, that was hard. There we go. And we're gonna mimic this exact same thing on the bottom. I'm gonna use a bigger bead of my own and then a smaller bead. Actually, I only really need, I'll put them both on. It might not both be necessary, but we're gonna do it anyway. Okay, now that we have the bobber on and the beads underneath it, we're gonna put an inline weight. Now, this inline weight is either 1/8 or 1/4 ounce. This is a 1/4 ounce bobber. I really need an 1/8 ounce, but this might be a tad bit heavy. But since I'm using such light jigs, I don't think it's gonna make a difference, but I will probably purchase some 1/8 ounce inline weights, put them underneath. Then I can use an 1/8 ounce here, an 1/8 ounce here, and it'll all balance out to be 1/4 ounce. I'm gonna use a polymer knot. I always use polymer knot with braid. You just fold it over, put it through your weight, do a basic overhand knot. Then you have a tag end here. You open up the tag end, put your swivel or weight or whatever through it, pull it all tight. That's polymer knot. Then cut the tag end off. And that's it. Okay, that is the top section of this float setup is complete. Okay, we've got our bobber tied on. Good to go, and you just adjust the depth of how you want to fish by sliding that bobber stop up or down. Now we need to put a leader. That's where these beautiful red and white jigs are going to come into play. So let's go ahead and get one of those out. I want to take a look at these things. They're real small. How heavy are these? 1/16, so they don't weigh much. But what I'm going to do is put a leader here. So ideally I'm going to run 8-pound braid on the top, and I'm going to run 4-pound mono for my leader. That is pretty light, but I think it's gonna be perfect. So let's go ahead and get this piece out that's like 3 or 4 feet long. Good enough. I don't get too worried about measurements, truthfully, but Maxima Ultra Green is a very strong line. It's one of my favorite. And I know it's not a fluorocarbon line, but it's very good. I'm gonna go ahead and tie on to the jig before I put my worm on there. Again, I use with mono and fluoro, I use a trilene knot. So I'm gonna tie that on. Five, 6, 7. You'll notice that I got it wet with saliva. It's necessary if you're using mono and fluorocarbon, especially fluorocarbon, get it a little bit wet. It will help that not to burn your knot. Okay. Okay. Cut off the tag end. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and tie the top of this leader. A little long there, I think. Cut it a tiny bit shorter. It's really just about your preference. You don't have to run a long leader. You could run a foot if you want. But you do want to get it away from the bobber, because I'm running a main line that actually has visibility. You do want to have a fairly long leader so you can get it away from that bobber and that braid. Another trilene knot. Get it wet. 7 loops. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Back through the 2 loops. Cinch it up. Okay. Boom. Cut off the tag end. Got it. So right now we have our leader. Very light, but man, that's nice. Here's where the magic's gonna happen, okay? When I bought these, I bought them intentionally thinking about these Thurston Bait Company trout worms that look fantastic, and they are scented. I have an open pack I should be using, But I'm just gonna open up this new pack because I won like 3-4 packs of them. So this little trout worm, same thing. We're gonna, like the jigs, you're gonna just kind of measure up and see where you think it's gonna come out. About there. Yeah, but this is a lot smaller, so you gotta be real careful to try to keep it right down the center of that little worm. It's kind of tricky. Just do your best. Oops, see, like I'm already going out. There we go, I think that'll work. Slide it down. Oh, this thing is fire. Check this out. Look at that. That is a fire trout bait. Steelhead will take that. Trout will take that. Anything in the water. Bass will take that. I don't care what it is. Any fish will take that if they see it. So now let's look at the whole setup. We're done. We're going to look at this rod fully set up, and we're going to see what it looks like. Okay, that's it. Our light float fishing rod is complete. So again, we have a 7.6 light action Okuma SST. This is not the reel I'm going to use, but I'm going to use a small reel 2000 series, some light braid. Now this braid's a little heavier, but I'm going to be using 8-pound braid. Then it goes down to the setup. So come on in here, let's look at the setup. Like I showed you, you have a bobber stop on the top, that rope, go up, bobber stop on the top, then you have your 2 beads. Now you have your sliding bobber from B&R, some beads at the bottom again to protect that knot, down to your inline weight. 1/4 ounce, I do need to reduce that to 1/8 ounce, but that's okay. Then I've got a leader, which now looking at it looks way too long. Because what if I'm fishing water that's 3 feet deep and I have a 4.5 foot leader? But down to a light leader to your bait, like this here, trout worm. So this will be targeting trophy trout, possibly steelhead, and that's the setup. Hey guys, I want to thank you so much for watching today. Just going through the tackle that I bought at the tackle store and how to rig it up. And that's what part of my channel here is, to teach people who don't know a lot about fishing how to just get started, how to get out there on the water and catch fish. And some of those things I showed you today are effective methods to help you get out in the water and catch fish. And I'm really excited to use this light setup here. It's going to be awesome, fantastic. Tomorrow I'm going to be targeting trophy trout with my son. It's going to be a great treat, so I'm looking forward to that. If you guys like fishing stuff, if you like the Pacific Northwest, the beauty, the nature, the outdoors, and especially fishing, please subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate your support. And as always, the way to have an awesome and content life, you got to grow a beard and love Jesus. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you. We'll see you on the water.